Good morning, everybody. Oh my, this stuff just never stops. And a big thank you to Kai Lear on Twitter for this picture. Love it. All right, you guys, let's buckle up and get in there, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start with the Duke of Edinburgh, who, even though he just came back from a tour in Indonesia, hosted a reception for the Queen's Commonwealth Trust supporters. He's a dedicated man. It's also been announced that the Guild of Great Britain has an Inclusion Award nominees, and it's going to be put out on February 8th. Sophie was at the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT, and she was with the British Ambassador to Colombia, George Hodson, at their regional headquarters. For those of you who don't know, CIAT is the Center for Research on Tropical Agriculture. It's a seed bank, and she is honorary president of LEAF and Humboldt Institute Molecular Analysis Laboratory. This is really interesting. She got to see a gene bank that safeguards different tropical forages and beans and other crops from around the world. That just seems really cool. And after that, apparently there was a science fair going on. So she got to learn about soil management and forest conservation, gene editing, all kinds of really cool stuff. And a thank you to Remoulade Sauce for everything that she was wearing. Next up, Sophie visited the Tropicos Fruit of Hope coffee farm. Apparently, this farm is contributing to the economic reincorporation of over 130 ex-combatants and the role of women in continuing to spread peace. She heard about all the challenges that they're having. She heard about the progress that they're making. She visited the seed nurseries, and she even got to taste the final product. I don't know that I would have done that, but okay, good for her. Don't misunderstand me. You guys know how much I love coffee, but I like the bean in my machine, not just right off the vine, or however coffee is made. I don't really care as long as it's in my cup and it's nice and strong. Now, I'm going to try to put these in order, but they may very well not be. I apologize. She later on went to a musical performance in Cali, Colombia. And while she was there, she met women's organizations and entrepreneurs. And again, a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for everything she was wearing. On that same day, Sophie had a meeting with survivors of conflict-related sexual violence and participated in another round table discussion. You know, you guys can tell when you look at these pictures when she's hugging people, she doesn't do it at a certain angle so that she'll look good for the camera like other people. You know what I'm saying? For her, it's genuine. She truly cares about what it is she's doing. And say it with me, thank you, Remoulade Sauce, for all of the information on her clothes. Next up, we have Princess Eugenie, Princess Beatrice with Eduardo, Sarah Ferguson, and Zara Tyndall. They all went to the Anti-Slavery Collective inaugural Winter Gala. Now, this took place at the Battersea Arts Centre in London. Looking nice, ladies. And again, one more time, thank you to Remoulade Sauce for the information on what Zara was wearing and also on what I believe Eugenie was wearing. All right, moving on. Let's move on now to King Charles, who is in Dubai at the COP28, summit where they go every year. So let me just start by saying that Omid Scobie's book has not affected King Charles in the popularity department. Look at the crowds. People were all over the place wanting to talk to the king, touch the king, shake his hand. I'm telling you, every time these two open their mouths, their popularity drops and his goes through the roof. I'm telling you. Now, the king was able to meet with graduates and students from across the Commonwealth while he's in Dubai, and he also met up with some entrepreneurs to hear about green tech and sustainable innovations. Now, here he is meeting the Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton, the British Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, during the visit to the university to formally open up the Dubai campus. There was a reception that marked the launch of the Wildfire Resilient Landscape Network. Now, this combines indigenous and scientific knowledge to create landscape resilient to wildfires in fire-prone areas of the world. At this reception, they launched the inaugural Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum. And so the king joined global heads of state and government, business, CEOs, philanthropists to celebrate the important role that the private sector plays in driving climate action. You know, whatever Omid Scobie tried, whatever Harry and Meghan tried, it's pretty obvious from these pictures that people don't believe it. They respect the king, they respect the monarchy, and things seem to be going well. Moving on to William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales. They welcomed the future Queen of Sweden, Crown Princess Victoria, and her husband Prince Daniel to Windsor Castle. Now, from those of you who are unaware, William and Victoria are fourth cousins once removed. They're both descended from Queen Victoria, who was William's 4 times great-grandmother. Of course, they've met before, they've hung out before, and so of course they've got a good friendship going, and so they were hanging out together. They looked absolutely lovely, and they're saying that in a nod to the British hosts, Victoria was wearing this red Landon boxy tweed crop jacket. And of course, thank you to Remoulade Sauce for what Catherine was wearing. Now, after this, they had to wrap up. Apparently, it's gotten quite cold there since I was there. And they went to a place called Kew Gardens, and they walked around. Apparently, this is the home to the largest botanical collections in the world. Very impressive. And then, of course, after they looked at everything, they wrapped back up so that they could go because, and by the way, this is held at the Palm House because they had to go home to get ready for tonight. Glam moment, excited. Of course, evening came, and here comes Catherine and William. She was in a show-stopping gown. She was gorgeous. The gown was 1,200 pounds from Sophia, and she just looked gorgeous. Oh my gosh. And William looked very dapper as well. He's such a gentleman. He put out his hand to help her. Now, of course, the gown had the flared sleeves, and she seems to be going for this style a lot. I'm sure you guys must have noticed, but I think it's a very good silhouette for her. Victoria and Daniel were also there with her. They also both looked absolutely fabulous. They stood for a rendition of God Save the King, and then they went and enjoyed the event. I'm glad that it looks like they had a fabulous time. I think Victoria was just as glamorous as Catherine, and I do love the fact that besides Catherine getting flowers and of course talking to the kids, Victoria was also given flowers, and her and Daniel got to talk to the kids. Well done. And once again, a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for all the information on what she was wearing. Now let's move on to Harry and Meghan. Articles like this are coming out saying that Meghan leaked the name of the royal racist in a nasty and deliberate attack to smear the monarchy amid the rift. Well, that's very interesting because the letter is supposedly, let's just say there was a letter between Charles and Meghan that went back and forth. I guarantee you, after what happened before, Charles had Meghan sign something saying that she can't show these letters, they have to be locked away, and that if she shows them, she could be sued, which I think is why Meghan is claiming now that she absolutely did not leak it, even though there's no other way that Omid could have gotten his hands on it. Of course, she's going to deny that she leaked it. Let's see what happens if she speaks up against Omid, because obviously this has gone nuclear now. Let me tell you, he is doubling down. He refuses to take any blame or apologize for this whole mess that's happened with the Dutch version of the book. He was asked if this was a stunt to sell books because he had very bad reviews, and he said, and I'm quoting, "I wish it was the case. There's an investigation underway." And remember what I told you about his word semantics? He said, quote, "I never submitted a book that had their names in it, so I can only talk about my version." Right. He says he's not in touch with Meghan and he's not her mouthpiece, and, they don't communicate, and yet a judge not long ago stepped up and said, absolutely, he's involved, because less than an hour after some legal papers were filed, he was talking about it, and there was no way he could have known about it unless he had been briefed by Meghan or her legal team. So yes, he is their mouthpiece. And a blind item came out saying that after the last blind, you would expect Omid to be a little, stronger in his denials. So far, nobody's buying it. Now, in the meantime, people who have worked with these Dutch translators are saying there's no way they just added the names to the book, which is something that Omid has basically inferred that they did. Omid should be so careful, because these women could turn around and sue him because he's trying to claim that the book that he put in was the English version, there were no names in it, and that these women somehow did something to his manuscript. He doesn't know what happened. He only knows that he didn't put the names in. That's lawsuit material. You can't go around accusing people of doing stuff like that, but he has. And let me just tell you that the Dutch translator is saying that the two names were in the manuscript that she was sent. It's my understanding she has them to prove that she's not lying, that they were sent to her with the names. So like everything else that happens with Harry and Meghan, like when the pictures were taken of the kids and they said, we're going to do an investigation how this happened, and then you never heard another word about it. And the reason you didn't hear anything else about it is because it was a setup. And you can't sue for something when you were in on it. Same situation. So he's going to claim that they're doing an investigation, but they're never going to find how it happened because it absolutely was a marketing ploy. The articles are coming out now saying that Buckingham Palace is considering all of their options, including legal options, after Piers Morgan named the two racist royals. Here's the thing. First of all, Piers might have said it on the TV, but it was already out in the public realm. It was already in a book. It was already all over the news. He didn't break news. He didn't give any information that wasn't already out there. They're not going to sue Piers Morgan. He's a good friend of the family. They are looking because, like I said before, I think that Meghan had to sign something before Charles would communicate with her by letter. Now, I want to point something else out to you guys. Depending on who's interviewing Scobie, he seems to change his wording. So, for instance, he said he never used the word racist. He only used unconscious bias. Thank you to Steph the Altar Nerd. If you look here, he wrote unconscious racial bias. But, okay, let's see what he had to say in this interview. Listen carefully.
Firstly, I've never used the racist word when in this subject. Even the book makes it very clear that we're talking about unconscious bias here. We're talking about a conversation that was raised about the colour of Archie's skin that they called concerns.
And yet, he gave an interview with this person, and in it, he essentially called the Queen racist. Listen to this.
Their existence, their mere story, has raised issues about misogyny within the institution of the monarchy, about unconscious bias or racism. And I know Harry called it unconscious bias. I'm still going to call it racism because I think that it's only not racist when it's unconscious. The second someone makes it conscious to you and you try and minimize it or skirt the topic, or recollections may vary it, that is racism, and I'm sorry to that even me saying that makes people feel uncomfortable.
There you have it. On one show, he said, I've never used the word racism. Then on the next interview, he says, yeah, it's racism. And he infers that the Queen is racist. There you go. He also said he supports the monarchy and Harry and Meghan are irrelevant. You should know that other journalists are now debunking some of Omid's stuff. Listen to this.
Let me start by saying I'm not a royalist. I'm not really a big fan of the royals. I think they're paid far too much money from this country for being born as a royal. But I can say that King Charles and Kate Middleton are not the royal racist in question. I was going to say, how do you know that? So I've spoken today to a person who works with the royal family closely, with the senior royals. This person worked with the Queen, and this person is friends with Charles and with a number of the other senior royals. Okay. So they have told me today who the so-called royal racist is, and it's not Charles or Kate. Now,
I mean, your sources are always pretty good, JJ. So within the last hour or so, you have heard from a reliable royal source.
Yeah.
Literally to your face,
yes,
that King Charles and Kate are not
the person who asked this question.
Who asked this question about the colour of Archie's
skin.
So
let's go back to the Oprah interview, because this is where it starts. From what my source told me, it starts there. When the Oprah interview aired, everyone, all the senior royals, were concerned, mostly more so upset, because they were all implicated. Because rather than saying it was this person specifically, it's then, is it them, is it them, is it them? Harry and Meghan only said it wasn't the Queen, our late Queen, it wasn't Prince Philip. But everyone else was worried. So there were conversations happening between the royals about this for 2-3 weeks after this incident happened. And that's when my source was told from several of the senior royals, well, actually, this is the person who asked the question. Whether that question was asked in an innocent way, or whether that question was asked with racist undertones, I don't know. But I do know the person who did it, and it was not Charles, and it was not Kate.
This has now come around, and it started out, by the way, we were all looking for one person, and then suddenly
it's two people.
Scobie comes along.
Exactly.
And it's two people.
Yeah. So Scobie thinks he knows better than Meghan and Harry. Yeah. Meghan and Harry themselves said it was one person who made this comment. Then Scobie says, no, there was two people. And Meghan, I doubt highly that what Scobie's saying about it being two people is correct. I don't believe that he's right on that. I think he's fabricated that to try and move the story along a bit, because his book is only publishing things that we already knew about. I'm not a fan of Kate Middleton either. I'm normally quite disparaging about her. I may have called her Lazy Kate a few times. Yeah. I'm not here to defend Kate Middleton, but in the name of journalism, from what I've been told, it ain't her.
And just as a reminder, everybody, here's what I think happened. I think that they were talking about, I wonder what their future children are going to look like. Hopefully they'll have Meghan's skin tone and Harry's blue eyes. But, having these kinds of conversations does not make you a racist. I think Meghan took it to that place because she's always looking to be a victim. That's my honest opinion. I believe with this Twitter user, I think Meghan was jealous of Catherine. I think she showed up. I think she tried to take over. It didn't work. People loved Catherine. They still love Catherine. And I just think she wanted to be the star. And when she couldn't be the star, it went downhill very quickly for her. I think she did initially, minimum at least, help with this book. And I think it's going to explode in ways nobody considered. All right, you guys know what I'm looking for. Put those comments down and make them good. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, don't forget to double check, make sure you're still subscribed. If you've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.